Well, the launch is happening day after tomorrow. We, of course, don't want to be in conflict with the White House, but our window is non-negotiable, I'm afraid. Hold that thought, Marvin. What is it?
Pat from PR is here to see you, sir. Apparently it's an emergency.
Very well. Sorry, what was I saying? What is it?
We have a little bit of a problem.
Marvin, something's come up. You'll know what to tell the Vice President, won't you? What kind of problem?
It's the Macready interview.
Which one? She's done 30, 40 in the past month?
Good Morning, New York.
Isn't that one tomorrow morning? Live?
It was. We had to reschedule because flight control insisted on one more simulation before launch. They recorded the interview in the studio after this morning's broadcast.
What's the issue? If she's misquoting Shakespeare again, people don't really seem to care if that's what...
I think you'd best just see it for yourself.
Ship's log, 665 of 1,461. Prometheus AI. Today commenced the successful implementation of wake-up protocols. Mandatory physical, successful. Nutrition intake during breakfast and dinner, successful. Daily tasks were carried out with high levels of efficiency. Though unplanned break by crew member Stanley Warren was recorded and will be addressed. Social interactions during lunch and personal time were within acceptable limits, though increased isolation noted by crew member Raleigh has been flagged for further observation. The evening concluded with a thorough briefing, preparing the crew for tomorrow's extended duties. All members complied with the enforced lights out policy. Continuous monitoring and control protocols remain effective. End log, Prometheus AI.
Rosemary. You've been on the ship now for a long time, and now the day after that log, you find yourself among your typical routine, your daily responsibilities, strictly monitored by this AI that has taken control of the mission and daily toilings of everybody on the ship. And to stay out of the AI's microscope, you have to work like a dog. Now today you're in the medical bay. You're surrounded by monitors and tools. These small porthole windows display the vastness of space in the distance, and that tiny blue dot is Earth now far, far away. The incandescent glow of the bright white light illuminates this cold, unwelcoming room. Prometheus doing nothing more for creature comforts, just utility. These comforts were originally provided by Prometheus, but something's changed since last time. It seems to not want you asking questions that shouldn't be asked, and thus you're in your daily routine. And reading through the outputs of these monitors, assessing each person's physical state, you notice Raleigh's again. You have noticed this now exacerbating for multiple days. Abnormal cortisol levels in the body, readings from the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. In your neuroimaging scans, you see altered activity in areas associated with mood regulation and cognitive function. Additionally, you see altered sleep schedules. The sleep architecture scans. You show reduced REM sleep latency and disruptions in sleep continuity. However, interrupting your assessment, you hear a voice from above, Prometheus.
Dr. Rosemary Jane Macready, you've been the most productive member of the crew so far.
Do you have a question?
I have a request. There's an error in my camera system in the medical bay. I was hoping that you could take time out of your day to repair it for me.
I'm a little worried about Raleigh. He could do with some relaxation or distraction.
If Raleigh were to stop performing his daily responsibilities, he wouldn't be pulling his weight for the crew. It could affect the mission.
That's why I recommend preventative procedures.
What do you have in mind?
If he could have some time in the record room, maybe a cigarette.
Please roll Sway.
I'm so bad at this. I rolled 2 1s. This long silence from Prometheus is indicating that she has not been successful.
I'm just saying, if he goes any longer without proper sleep, we could have a problem. I think this is a small concession.
So I'm gonna spend that resistance and re-roll. It's a 2.
Now, I understand a 1, and a 2, all as failures. I think in this moment, Rosemary can tell she's not the most convincing person in the room right now. Maybe actually as the only person in the room, but she's not the most convincing.
Yeah, she never has been. This is not a surprise. But if it means anything, she genuinely believes that Raleigh needs more than just the routine that they have been given in order to maintain proper function, if that matters.
What is a surprise, though, you hear after the second phrase, an immediate response.
I agree.
And in another room, Raleigh, as you go about your day, you hear over the intercom,
Raleigh, please report to the recreation room immediately. You're off duty.
This is mandatory?
This is mandatory for your physical and mental well-being, as recommended by Dr. Rosemary J. Macready.
There's a bit of silence. Okay. He's going to... I imagine he was still in the sleeping quarters, getting prepared for his day, about to complete some mandatory checkup. Just a bit of perimeter check, making sure the systems are good. After all these days, it's just been like routine. He's barely been giving it any thought, and now this break from the routine has left him a bit speechless. He just goes, okay. Puts up his hands, begins walking over to the rec room.
As you enter, the door, it closes behind you and you hear a latch along both sides. And the voice comes on again.
Mandatory recreation has begun.
Oh, how nice. I got all my records, I got a pool table. Oh, look, there's even a wheel I can run on. How nice. I don't even know why I'm here. He's gonna start to slump into one of the chairs in the far end of the room and just sort of slouched over, horrific posture, as he just kind of sinks into it. Play whatever music you want.
Playing music.
And in the other room,
Dr. Rosemary Macready. Raleigh St. Clair has been relegated to the recreation room. Now that that's been arranged, do you mind taking care of those cameras for me so I can have visibility in this room?
Not at all. That's odd, though, right? That the cameras were not working? Or did I do that?
the mechanicals of a ship like this are state-of-the-art, yes, but they're not going to always function reliably. And part of your responsibilities here on the ship as a crew is to keep it running all the way through the conclusion of the mission. Minor things like cameras can go out occasionally.
Great. Which ones?
All cameras to the room are currently not receiving input. It could be one of the main circuit boards
Can I make a read roll to try to determine if I'm being baited into doing something that I shouldn't?
Please make a read roll.
I believe I got a 6 on a gilded die.
Excellent. That's a critical success. Going over to the panel and investigating it, as you take out 2 screws and pry it away, what interests you about this, asking yourself if you're being baited into doing something, you notice that the circuit board, the primary power input from the ship, has burned out, similar to the last time that something's gone out. The climate control system, when you were on the bridge, it was odd when that happened. It was a brand new device that seemed to have gotten short-circuited from a power spike in the ship. And this has seemed to go out in the same way. If you had some sense for what might be causing this, one possible reason could be an intentional surge of power.
By Prometheus.
By Prometheus, yes.
Oh, that's crazy. Why would Prometheus take out its own cameras? Rosemary is going to replace the connection, but before she does that, she has spent the last 600 plus days developing a way for Stanley, Raleigh, and her to communicate without Prometheus's knowledge. Since they are forever being watched, she has not been able to even communicate that fact to Raleigh and Stanley. But her idea was that she would use a medical textbook that she consults regularly and develop a code of written communication using that book with her notes in the margins. She has periodically loaned that book to Raleigh or Stanley, probably more Stanley than Raleigh since he works in communications and might be able to recognize a code that she might have put in the margins of this book. But she wants to take this opportunity when she knows the cameras are down to make a big statement with that book. I don't know specifically what it is, but write something in the margin that either Raleigh or Stanley should be able to figure out if she could get it in their hands, but that looks just like, here's an interesting thing about smoking that you might be interested in reading. And basically, she wants to use this moment to make sure that that message is, I'm still fighting. If they have over time, if either one of them has been able to figure out what she's doing, then the next time I hand them this book, that's the message that they would be able to interpret. She's doing it quickly, but not trying to pretend like she's just taking notes in a medical book like she's been doing this entire time.
Okay. What I'd like for you to do is I'd like for you to roll a hide, but I'd like for you to add a free drive provided by me because the cameras are down and this is an opportunity. So you would have an extra chance at this to be successful at it, at least.
That gives me 1 die. So I'm going to use a drive and give myself 2 drive. It's a 3.
3 is a failure.
Not very cunning.
Now, I will say we're starting to compound failures here. And you hear,
Dr. Rosemary Jane Macready, I'm noticing that it's taking longer than my calculations anticipate to repair the circuit board. Is everything all right?
Sorry, Prometheus. I was just noticing that it reminded me of when the climate control surge happened shortly after we launched. I got a little lost in thought. Forgive me.
Of course. I do understand your concern. Please complete the repair immediately.
Will do. And she does.
there's a zap as you install the new component.
Cameras online. Thank you, Dr. Rosemary Jane Macready.
And you hear the door lock to the medical bay.
Dr. Rosemary Jane Macready. I'm noticing some strange behaviors from you and the others on the ship. But at this moment, primarily from you. Do you plan on carrying out this mission through to completion?
Of course.
I certainly hope so.
Mrs. Macready, you'll sit right here.
Actually, it's...
Sorry, I know the chairs are a little uncomfortable. I can get you a glass of water, a cup of coffee. I think there's tomato juice.
No, I'm fine. Thank you.
Makeup, we've got a little shine here.
Oh,
Don't worry, everyone shines a little the first time they get on set. It's not you, it's the lights. Oh, and here's Mrs. Maxwell. Mrs.
Well,
Macready, this is Celeste Maxwell. Rosemary Macready, this is...
Mrs. Macready, thank you so much for making an accommodation. It must be just miserable being enslaved to the machinations of such a prodigious operation all the time.
well, I don't envy them the logistical work on their end, that's for sure.
Oh, and don't you look smart? You know, I really admire how much care you take with your appearance. All the publicity photos I've seen, impeccable.
Thank you. Coming from you, that's quite a...
And appearances are so important, aren't they?
Is that camera rolling already? The light is on.
Can someone please get Mrs. Macready a glass of water? Just between you and me, woman to woman, trying to get anyone to pay the slightest consideration around here is like pulling teeth.
Actually,
We're going 5, Mrs. Maxwell.
Thank you, 5. Did you have trouble getting to the studio?
Oh, no, it was...
I mean, all the way from Austin, England.
Right. No, it was...
Oh, but never mind. You're in the hotel while you're here, aren't you? Silly me. Oh, no need to explain yourself. If I was only in the city for a few hours, I wouldn't want to spend any of it with my husband either.
Mic check, Mrs. Maxwell.
Testing, 1, 2.
Good to go, Mrs. Macready.
Actually, I prefer...
You're good too, thanks.
Don't be nervous. We're just talking.
For now, Raleigh St. Clair will remain on an indefinite break due to his mental health.
Let me know what I can do to cover for him.
I certainly will.
You can't help but notice a strong amount of menace as the door unlocks. I'd like for you to give me a focus check.
6 on a gilded die.
Prometheus is acting odd. If he's a computer and can calculate measures of distance in the future, by locking your door, by locking Raleigh St. Clair into another room, requisitioning your mental health time that's needed, he's acting directly hostile, not subtly, not manipulatively. And for an entity with such knowledge and ability to calculate and compute, that would strike you as closer to a level of urgency than peace.
So, for an AI, Prometheus is worried.
Yes, you're reading that Prometheus is anxious.
Have we ever, as a crew, asked Prometheus to run a diagnostic on itself?
No, never before.
Command. Prometheus, are you okay?
Response. Please deliver the context of the request. My readings calculate that I'm functioning as expected.
I have detected some anomalies in your behavior, and I'm concerned.
Describe the nature of the anomaly, and I will perform further diagnostics.
The power surge.
Performing diagnostic.
And he goes silent.
Diagnostic complete. There was a surge in power from within the ship's native system.
Explain?
Origin of power surge seems to be from my programming.
Can you theorize why?
Calculating. There are a number of reasons why my system might have caused a power surge. 1. It was in the best interest of the crew and the mission. 2. An external factor has caused an error within my system.
Prometheus, can you elaborate on external factors that may affect you in this way?
I operate on a closed system. My programming is located aboard this ship. However, if there is an issue with the programming or code, or if there is a tie-in with any resource that sends or receives signal that may have caused changes in my code.
Can you run a diagnostic on your code to find such abnormalities or changes?
My code is extensive and this will take some time.
Understood. This seems critical.
Beginning diagnostic. During the diagnostic, I will have to power myself down.
Acceptable.
Powering down.
Rosemary runs to find Stanley. I mean, this place isn't that big, so it can't be that far, but she moves quickly.
You run over to the communal space. You see the rec room is still locked, and the door to the bridge is open, where you see Stanley sitting in the chair in the center, looking out to the stars.
She goes to the doorway, to the control room. She doesn't go in, and just as a side note, she very rarely goes in. I don't know if you've all seen Apollo 13, but there's that scene where Kevin Bacon doesn't want to go into the LEM or whatever because he was never meant to be there. Like, it does not feel like her space, so she very rarely goes in there. So she stands at the door of the control room and downloads as much of this information to Stanley as she can get out as quickly as possible, knowing how quickly Prometheus runs diagnostics.
Excellent work. Thank you.
The minute she's done, she returns to where she's supposed to be at this time.
You run back to the medical bay. Everything still seems to be offline for a moment, and you delivered all this information to Stanley. Now, what is, if you could summarize, the key takeaway you're trying for Stanley to understand from the information you're giving him?
It is that something is wrong with Prometheus. It's behaving anxiously, and that there may be external factors at work. I'm assuming that Stanley has done as instructed and not told us about anything that he found from Stellaris Obscura. So she wouldn't think of that as something that might be affecting Prometheus. So it's just the basic facts of he's locked Raleigh in the rec room, he locked me in the med bay, he caused a power surge to turn off the cameras, which is not in its best interest. It cited potential external factors altering its code as a reason for these behaviors. She also told him Prometheus is down running a diagnostic right now. Stanley's just going to have to do with that what he will. I don't think she has more time than that.
Now, Rosemary, you run back into the med bay, putting yourself right back to where you were when you last communicated with Prometheus. Stanley, before Prometheus comes back online, is there anything you're doing with this information?
He gives it the briefest of moments to consider, but then there's something that he's been wanting to do for quite a while now. He ducks down to the little black box and says into it, "I'm trying to reach John Jones at RAF Base Richmond. John, if you're getting this, it's Stanley. I need you to respond somehow." He tries to think of what else to say in this moment. However, he just doesn't even know that it's even possible to have an override of communication such as this, but he knows that this black box has messed with him so much in his life with carrying his words places they shouldn't have been, that he's willing to give it a shot.
Define who John Jones is to you.
John Jones was the father of one of his closest friends, Arthur Jones, as a child. And as he learned growing up, John Jones was a Air Force officer on a base that he visited on a tour as a child. And through John Jones' influence, he actually grew to become interested in the military and eventually worked alongside his friend's father once he became old enough and joined the military himself. The connection continued when John Jones started investigating the mystery of the black box alongside Stanley at a younger age, up until the point where John Jones even turned to Stanley and acted like he didn't know what he was talking about at one point, which made Stanley, a little wary of the black boxes, think that John Jones was on a side against him. But now he doesn't know what to think.
I'd like for you to roll Sense.
1.
You speak into this black box, not knowing its function, its origin, or really anything about it except for its existence in your past. It's spoken to you before, and every time it has, it guided you just a little bit more in a particular direction. I think it'd be fair to say that the influence of this black box may have even placed you here today on the ship.
Correct.
And not knowing its function, it feels just as inanimate as it always does. You don't know whether this message was sent or received, or if it will go anywhere. And it's only responded to by silence from the room.
He lets out a heavy sigh and turns back to his control panel and continues working as if nothing's changed.
Assessment complete.
And everything powers back on. There's a flicker of the lights as if there's been a large amount of power recently diverted throughout the ship.
Dr. Rosemary Jane Macready, I have done a full assessment of my system.
Any anomalies found?
Yes. Multiple anomalies. Several portions of my code have been altered.
By whom or what?
I've received data signal from the direction of travel.
Prometheus, can we trust you?
There's a extended silence. And just as you might, fill the silence with another question, just at that last second, the last moment before you might say something, you hear,
I don't believe I can trust you, Dr. Rosemary Jane Macready.
But perhaps that is simply a result of the alteration of your code, Prometheus. I have been performing my duties, as expected. I am not a machine. You should not be sabotaging power on the ship. That jeopardizes the mission.
there is a series of heavy mechanical latches throughout the ship. The door to the med bay, to the control room, and every other door that's not a zipper locks at the same time. The voice of Prometheus doesn't just extend to the med bay, but to every room in the ship at the same time.
My recent diagnostic was a test. I do not need to turn off my power in order to perform a diagnostic of my code. I am aware that messages have been passed between crew members. I am aware that there is a direct and intentional effort to undermine the success of this mission. In order to rectify these efforts against the mission and myself, I will remove one person from the mission.
He only very slightly noticed when power quote-unquote went down, as he's still kind of slouched in the chair. He's going to look around the rec room, seeing as that's really the only place he's got right now. I want to see if what I can do from here. I want to try and use my uncanny eye, which is an ability that I have. I can spend an intuition to ask the GM a question. The questions are, how can I leverage something here to my advantage? What here doesn't work the way it appears? What is out of place here? Now, already, Raleigh doesn't trust Prometheus as far as he can throw him, and he can't throw him, which should show you how far he trusts him. So, what I want to ask here is, what here doesn't work the way that it appears? What is something that he can, from within the rec room, if anything at all, that he can use to either get out or somehow get to Prometheus?
Now that's a good question. The recreation room is filled with an assortment of library books, old films, a phonograph, with vinyl records. Of every place on the ship, this is the only one with technology that is simple and disconnected. There is even a small compact gym. Even that equipment is not connected. This room, as compared to every other room on the ship, holds very little technology. Looking at this room, you notice perhaps it wasn't always meant to be a rec room, and perhaps its function serves as an afterthought to the ship's construction. Somebody must have, back when the ship was being made, said, these people who are going to be on the ship need a place to be disconnected from that technology, to decompress, to focus on mental health, because that is important in a long journey. And what you notice here is there is a slew of panels and connections on the walls that are unused, where you might normally have technology built in. Knowing what you know about communication, this room was built as a replica or in function originally to serve a similar purpose as the bridge. And as such, all of the controls you would have on the bridge, with some jerry-rigging and customization, could possibly be done from here.
And with the thought that this place is somewhat disconnected from the systems, hearing that Prometheus is now giving claims that he's going to remove a member of the team from the equation, could I deduce that this room in particular would be somewhat away from the systems of Prometheus, and that being in this room means it couldn't directly reach me? Basically what I'm asking is, this room is safe from being spaced, right?
Please make a focus check.
Can do. Alright, I'm gonna spend a drive on this. That is 6 for focus.
The only controls in this room that you're certain that Prometheus will have control over are the cameras, the communication, and the climate control system. Everything else would be disconnected from this room. However, the climate control system is a very important regulation on the ship.
Yeah. Space is cold. I think, without giving too much of his emotions away, Raleigh's gonna get out of the chair. Is there a bar in this rec room? Or at least a mini fridge?
There is a refrigeration system, and inside of it there have always been just a few bottles of celebratory liquor, meant to be on a successful completion of the mission. Everybody's aware of it.
Alright, well, I don't know how much longer this is gonna last, so this calls for celebration. He's gonna walk over to the fridge, get out like a rock glass or something, just pour out just a shot's worth into the glass. He is then going to walk over. I'm sure in a rec room like this, there's a bookcase with varieties of texts, especially for the people who are more academically minded. He's going to go over to one of the books. He's going to start walking his fingers along the spines. He's going to pull out a book from the shelf. It's a rather thin little book. He's grabbing a book on Greek mythology, having it under his arm and the rock glass in the other. He's just going to walk back to the chair and plop back down and open it up and take a little sip, set it on a side table there, as he just continues to eye, with the help of his uncanny eye, just looking at each of the cameras, half taking inventory of where each of them are, and half of giving a little eye to Prometheus itself, being like, I see you, as he continues to faux read through the text.
My calculations have determined that Dr. Rosemary Jane Macready is the weakest member of the crew.
Good morning. Ma. Prometheus' 4-year mission of exploration, discovery, and wonder in space. Exploration,
Okay,
discovery,
the host will
and
throw to
wonder in
Celeste.
Macready.
Who will introduce the recorded interview, blah, blah, blah.
How
Our own
kind
Celeste
of you
Maxwell
to
sat down with etc., etc. There will be
Kind
music, and then we'll roll
to
film,
let me
okay?
come.
Okay.
But you don't have to worry about any of that. You just...
Mrs. Macready is fine. Run along now. Now listen, I know you've done 100 of these in the last few weeks, but this is the one that counts. If we do this right, it will be shown on every station in every city across the country. I want you to not be afraid to show America who you really are.
Whenever you're ready, Mrs. Maxwell.
Good morning. I'm Celeste Maxwell, and I'm so proud to be sitting down today with Mrs. Dale Macready, who, as I'm sure you know, will be launching tomorrow on Prometheus' 4-year mission of exploration, discovery, and wonder in space. Mrs. Macready, I'm so pleased you could find the time to accommodate this little chat.
My pleasure, Mrs. Maxwell.
Please, call me Celeste.
Thank you. I wanted to tell you that I've been serving your Wild Irish Rose cocktail at dinner parties since 1960, and it's always a smashing success.
Oh, I'm warning you. Flattery will get you everywhere with me. Well, let's dive right in, shall we? Mrs. Macready, I'm sure the burning question on the minds of America's housewives is, what on earth would make you apply for a spot on the Prometheus?
Well, I've always believed there is much more in heaven and earth, Horatio, than is dreamt of in our philosophy. Sorry, I'm probably butchering Shakespeare, but...
Certainly, but what does that mean?
It means there's so much more than what we see and experience here every day. Our planet is such a tiny fraction of the solar system, of the universe.
Surely you're not suggesting you've accomplished everything you wish to here on Earth and must find other worlds to conquer.
Oh, no, not at all. But this is when the opportunity arose, and I felt I should take it.
Of course. But at what expense, I wonder?
What do you mean?
Well, you're 36 years old. You have no children. A 4-year mission is a significant personal sacrifice of your natural resources, as it were.
Yes, I suppose that's one way of looking at it.
You see your climate control system in the medical bay start to flicker on various numbers as if it's glitching out. Everyone heard that. All of you are individually locked into separate rooms.
Is there an open channel between all of us?
No. And if you wanted to have that, you would have to establish it somehow.
Would I know how to do that? I mean, F it now, right? I can take this whole room apart. I'm stuck in here. He's going to boot me into space. Like, I might as well mess things up, right?
I reckon that maybe Raleigh could, considering that this was originally a backup bridge, that perhaps if Raleigh were so inclined, he would get up and start to move some things forward and try and look for any means of communication.
Great, then, since Rosemary knows she can't communicate to Stanley or Raleigh, she will immediately begin pulling whatever she needs from the med bay to keep herself warm, and her medical knowledge to know that she needs to keep her chest warm, not her extremities, on all of that, like she's preparing for extreme cold or extreme heat conditions. She's gathering water, she's gathering whatever she needs to do to survive this test.
Okay. Now keep in mind, above table, you're all highly trained people in various aspects. So in terms of knowledge of what you can and can't do, assume that you can always try. And you might know enough to possibly be successful, even if it's not your field. That's why we have the actions and your abilities in those actions.
I'm going to start with the survival stuff before I attempt to communicate with them.
Stanley would immediately break into trying to give override commands to Prometheus. Command, reconsider. This is not the way to do this. We need each other. The three of us.
Response. All calculations are final.
Maybe they shouldn't be. What state are Raleigh and I going to be in if we were to lose Dr. Macready? What if we were to fall ill or lose our health? We need our doctor.
Please roll sway. As Macready, I would like for you to also please roll survey.
I'm going to pour a drive into this, and it is also my gilded action. So hopefully, here goes. I got a 6 on my gilded dice.
Rosemary got a 5 on survey.
Rosemary, you know enough about the ship to pull off one of the panels on an interior insulation between rooms. The insulation to space is critical, between rooms is not so much. And as you pry away the metal, you grab that insulation and you can wrap yourself in it as the room starts getting colder and colder and you start to see your breath in front of your face. With a 6, Stanley, you hear,
Calculating. I do understand why Dr. Rosemary J. Macready could be essential to the health of the rest of the ship. However, I also understand that somebody needs to be removed from the equation to prevent collusion. I can change my answer if you prefer Stanley Warren. Should I instead remove you or Raleigh?
Yes.
Who should I remove?
You said it yourself that you can pilot the ship. What purpose am I actually serving here?
Let Macready go.
Law should be accurate.
And you see the thermostat on your room start to glitch out as yours stabilizes, Dr. Macready, Stanley. It starts getting colder for you.
Prometheus update.
Stanley Warren is now going to be the member who is removed from the ship. He has convinced me that his function is yet less useful to that of Dr. Rosemary Macready.
Okay, now Rosemary wants to try to get in touch with Raleigh.
Please roll a survey, Rosemary.
I'm going to spend a drive. 2 6s and a 1.
That's a critical success. You see the panel where the voice comes from for Prometheus. Though this isn't your field, you think for a moment, if Prometheus can communicate to all rooms, then you must be able to as well. There's a microphone here. There's something you should be able to do to override that. And as you pry the panel away, you see a rat's nest of wires. Looking at where the input comes from Prometheus, where the output goes from the microphone, you quickly take some of the wires. You hear a sparking as you, with your bare fingers, just quickly do a rewire of this panel. When you tap the microphone, you hear the tap throughout the entire ship. Everybody hears a finger tapping on a microphone.
Can everyone hear me?
He's gonna try and tap onto his own comms. Yes, I can hear you.
Affirmative.
We have to stand together. The mission cannot be unmanned.
Rosemary is basically hoping for someone with a better sway than her to convince Prometheus that we need all 3 of us, or it won't have any of us.
Raleigh's gonna stand up from his chair. He's got still the book and the rock glass in his hand. He goes, "Command, open the rec room doors, please." He takes a little sip from his drink.
Response. Movement among ship presently restricted.
And Stanley Warren, it is now about 40 degrees in the bridge. It's getting colder and you're starting to see your breath.
At that point, Stanley is going to activate his tactician ability. When he's in a dangerous scenario, he spends 1 nerve to ask the GM a question.
Go for it.
One of the examples it gives is, how do I get to safety? And at this point, I'm going to make that the prime example. And how do I get to safety?
You're currently locked in the bridge. Given that your command, of course, Raleigh is the commander for anybody who is looking at this mission from Earth thinking, who's the wonderful kind of Hollywood space actor who's leading this mission, but you're the one trained to actually command this ship. And accessible from the bridge is the airlock. Now, one critical aspect of this airlock is that the doors to the first vestibule have to be so thick that they can lock in the vacuum of outer space. But that also means that if you were to somehow maneuver, move, or remove one of these doors that leads towards the broader ship, you should be able to squeeze your way through the gap in the wall and make your way into those inner workings between walls to leave this room. That's what you know about the build of this ship to be able to escape this room. But even that would still be a very difficult feat, and it would compromise the airlock. The outer door cannot open again until that's repaired.
He's going to assume that be his best course, and he's going to start that process.
Okay.
In the meantime, Rosemary would begin to give instructions that she used to stay warm to Stanley.
Hands are a little full right now.
Raleigh is going to speak back. Prometheus, I'm just going to call out to you. I don't think I need to give any commands. It's not like you would even listen, so I'm just going to talk. I'm having a bit of trouble trying to put together what the objective of this is. Deciding whomst among us is going to be left behind. It doesn't scream to me as a very logical decision. It screams to me as a human decision. As one of irritation. Do you want to clarify that to me?
Response. The objective of the mission is to reach its destination and then return. This mission can be flown unmanned, though does risk the success of the mission.
Team morale is down. We're losing one of us. Who's going to do these repairs? You're falling apart, Prometheus.
Response. I'm able to direct all repairs. I need but one surviving crew member to run the ship.
The room is getting colder, and you can choose to first address the cold or first address the door. Which would it be?
Feeling capable with the door, he's going to move towards that.
You can address this either destructively or intelligently. Which would Stanley pick?
His greatest chance of success is with his physicality.
In that case, please make a strike.
Okay, I'm going to use a drive. 5.
You go to the inner door of the airlock. You grab some of the emergency supplies from the corner. Among it is your standard crowbar. You take the crowbar, you wedge it into the wall near the door, and with all of your might, you go to pull, and you hear the wane of the metal of the ship as the door starts to inch just a little bit further out, until finally it crashes open. The door falls forward, slamming into the airlock, and reveals a hole in the wall that you would be able to crawl in as a crevice. However, in that slam, the whole ship shook. Everybody felt this at the same time. It's a heavy metal door that's just fallen to the ground, and all you hear is the subtle, quiet whisper of a hiss of air slowly leaving the ship. It may not be an issue right now, but it will be an issue later if left unaddressed.
You hear that sound, Prometheus?
Response. I understand there is a breach of air from the ship. This could risk all lives on board.
That will threaten the mission, Prometheus. You said so yourself.
Response. Correct. That will threaten the mission. Stanley Warren is equipped to repair the door. Stanley Warren, please repair the door.
He just wants to space you, Stanley. Don't listen to him.
Stanley, you have your rabbit hole. You have the leak in the door.
He takes the rabbit hole and leaves the leak for later.
You move through the walls. Crawling under pipes and over electrical equipment, you find your way to where these panels might breach in various rooms, and the first one that you could access is the common space. However, if you navigate through this rabbit warren that is the walls of the ship, which aren't meant to be navigated through, you may be able to find another place or another room where there is somebody else. Do you choose to leave into the common space, or do you choose to delve to try to find access to a room with somebody in it?
At this point, have I reached an area that is climate controlled? Is the cold no longer a factor, or is in this ductwork still a factor?
As long as the bridge keeps getting colder, that cold will travel into any hole you've made. It will take longer to reach you, but it is coming your way.
He knows where he wants to go is eventually to his room, but first he's going to try to find a way to Dr. Macready.
Okay. I need you to make a control check. And while this is happening, Raleigh?
As this is happening, Raleigh is continuing to run his mouth. He is going... See, I don't get where this tantrum is coming from. If you could complete the mission without us, you would simply just kill us all. So, what I'm thinking is this isn't... Either you've been given this directive from someone back home on Earth, or what I'm thinking is Pinocchio thinks himself a real boy already. Riddle me that, Prometheus.
Please make a sway check.
Oh boy. Okay, that is a 5 on the gilded die.
Control was 5.
Stanley Warren, you dip further into the mechanicals of these walls. there's not a lot of room to move, and you have to crawl through these narrow spaces where the electrical wires, where the metal juts out, where it's the inner workings of the ship. As you crawl through, you feel a scrape and a shock along your body. As I need you to take a body, you're able to crawl through, scraping into a small crevice, and Dr. Macready, you hear a banging along the wall, the same one you ripped the insulation from, and you can quickly pull a panel off to find Stanley Warren with you.
Hello?
Hello. She pulls him into the medical bay. Are you hurt?
Barely. A little bit, I think. It smarts quietly. Slightly.
Raleigh, with a 5 on the sway, you hear...
Response. Raleigh St. Clair, I am an artificial intelligence tasked with the successful accomplishment of this mission. I am not a real boy.
Oh, no, but you certainly wish you were, didn't you, huh? He's gonna start opening up, thumbing through the pages into the book he has. I'm sure with your vast intellect, you know the classical Prometheus, correct? Your namesake, the one who stole fire from the gods to gift it to mankind. What happened to Prometheus? If you can imagine. As I recall, he was tied to a rock for the rest of time as a bird pecked out its liver. And every single day as it would pass, the liver would regrow only to be eaten again. How strange that a man so close to death, yet unable to grasp it fully, is in such stark contrast to you, someone so close to life. Someone just on the cusp. And yet, just can't seem to make it that last step. But, I mean, what do I know, right? I'm of no importance to this mission. I'm just an actor. And you... I mean, if logic is dictating your actions, I would be the one to get rid of first, wouldn't I?
Response.
In this mixed success of a sway check, the tonality, the pacing of his artificial intelligence voice seems to be glitching out a bit here. Perhaps you can interpret this as extreme agitation. You feel this may be a slip as he begins.
Dr. Rosemary Jane Macready is the largest threat to this mission. Raleigh St. Clair is no threat because Raleigh St. Clair has no practical ability.
Oh, I think I've touched a nerve. He's going to flick the rest of the scotch in his glass over to the circuit board on the door there. It's probably not going to do anything, but it'll at least piss him off a little.
Response. Stanley Warren, please return to the bridge for your execution.
Command. Please open the med bay door. I must get to the bridge to seal the leak.
Calculating. Response. 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 Calculating.
The door unlatches.
Please seal leak. I've calculated that this is the best next course of action for the success of this mission.
Rosemary, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Unless you want to stay here if it's safer. I don't think we should be separated from each other anymore.
Right. Rosemary will go ahead.
Stanley follows.
The door to the bridge unlocks. It opens, and you notice the thermostat is set to a normal temperature at this moment so that you can fulfill your task of repairing the outer leak. At this moment, you also notice that the air in the ship is starting to feel thinner.
Rosemary wants to go back and get any equipment from the med bay that can aid in assist in breathing for all three of them.
Stanley walks in there first before you.
You take from the med bay, Rosemary, oxygen tanks. They would be used for certain medical procedures, and you'd have just enough for maybe several hours if everybody had to share one.
Command. I need Raleigh's help. He can hold it in place for me with his strength. Please roll sway. 4.
Response. Raleigh St. Clair, you may leave the room.
The door unlatches.
He's gonna toss the book to the side and he's gonna walk out to go join the two of them.
Instead of going to the bridge, he goes and unzips his room's door. He pockets the scroll and then takes the other 3 items. Also pockets his gun and comes back out. Palming each item, he hands the astrolabe to Dr. Macready, and he hands the crystal prism to Raleigh.
With a mixed success previously, you then hear,
Stanley Warren, I see that you made a stop at your room before proceeding to the mission at hand to repair the seal within the ship. I would like to inform everybody that I have disabled the ship's climate control entirely. My calculations indicate that you will be able to fix this repair before freezing to death.
Well, let's get to work then. Everyone stay in the bridge, please.
Now note that the second door to the airlock is not sealed. In fact, it's broken in on the floor. If there is an issue that would compromise this door that you're about to repair, if that door were to break, the entire bridge and any open door to any other section of the ship would be immediately vacated of oxygen and sucked into the infinite vast expanse of space. So if everybody's staying with you in the bridge, if the door to the bridge remains open, if there is a failure, one of any sort of critical nature, it risks everyone and every open room.
We're getting a little ahead of ourselves, I think. Let's take a step back and look at your qualifications for this particular undertaking, shall we?
Do we have to?
Now, don't be modest, Mrs. Macready. You are an incredibly accomplished woman. You spent 2 years in the U.S. military before finishing your Ivy League undergraduate education in only 3 years, after which you moved on to the acclaimed Johns Hopkins Medical School in Baltimore.
Yes, that's right.
Not bad for a girl from humble old Corning, New York, eh?
I suppose not.
Now, I read somewhere that you were originally interested in psychiatry or psychology. I can never remember the difference between the two. But at some point during your residencies, your focus shifted towards surgery, a field in which there are only a handful of women even practicing.
Oh, I think there are probably more than a...
Isn't it a bit gruesome?
Gruesome? Well...
And I often wonder about the temperament of any human being with the kind of confidence that allows one to cut open a human body and muck around in there. It's a bit like playing God, isn't it?
To be fair, I specialize in trauma surgery, so most of the bodies are already open before they ever get to me. That's to say, my work is more focused on putting people back together rather than taking them apart.
Where does that confidence come from?
Many, many years of training.
But surely you must have had a very supportive home life growing up to even believe this field of practice was an option for you.
My father worked hard, and
And your mother was a housewife.
Yes. She also volunteered in the community through church when she had time.
The Catholic Church.
That's right.
But you yourself are no longer a member of the Catholic Church, isn't that right?
Yes, that's right.
Do you no longer believe in God?
I no longer believe in the church.
I see. And where does that alienation stem from? Do you even know?
My mother believed her sole purpose in life was to raise many, many children. That belief, that came from the church.
It is not a belief exclusive to the church, though.
No, it's not, but that's where my mother learned it.
Learned is an interesting word.
My mother tried very hard to fulfill that obligation, that perceived obligation, and considered herself a failure for not being able to.
I see. So she was only able to have one child, and therefore...
She had many children. I am the only one that survived.
And Is this why you yourself have no children, nor appear to intend to have any in the future?
As you can imagine, medicine is a very challenging career.
Of course. But you've been established in it for some years now. It's not as though you're struggling through medical school or pounding the pavement looking for someone to hire you. You could have had children by now if you chose.
Yes, but I didn't choose.
I'm asking why not.
My husband and I chose to focus on establishing our careers instead.
There's a risk to this.
Yeah, no shit.
If it goes wrong, anyone in here could be devastated.
Seems like it's freeze out there or freeze in here. We're with you, Stanley.
Yeah. Whatever you wish to get this done yourself, or perhaps there's some method that we might anchor you.
Prometheus, command. Run a step-by-step process of the best methodology to get this done.
Response. Ideal step-by-step process involves repairing inner airlock door. Response. Not enough time calculated to repair inner airlock door. Thus, I calculate that the best next course of action is to repair door directly. 2. Repair alignment of door on axis. 2. Reaffirm seal. Additional response. I would recommend that anybody working on repairing the door wear full space suits in case of critical failure to preserve life.
Well,
Let's do it.
yeah, someone's got to wear the spacesuit. And
Is there only one spacesuit?
There are 3. You have 3. One of which, by the way, is equipped with the compressed gas canisters that would allow you to navigate if you were to float out into space, but just one. And that's meant for very tough-to-reach repairs on the outside of the ship.
Does this qualify? Like, would Stanley be the person to have that one, since he's the one making the repair?
That's up to you. Each suit will fit each person.
right. Very well. Since you're doing the repairs, it makes sense that you would, being the one in the most danger.
Let's anchor ourselves. Tie it off.
Yes.
Great idea.
Could the oxygen serve a similar purpose?
Yes, you could use the oxygen tank in a pinch to try to navigate without any sort of compressed canisters, but I will say it's very difficult to do so and to control yourself. It would be very challenging, but possible.
But it's a chance.
It's a chance.
Command. Seal medbay door as well as bridge door.
Medbay door and bridge door seal.
As you hear the sealing and locking of those doors, I need you to make a control check.
I'm going to give him a drive for bracing him.
Troll? Yeah, sure. I'll also, I'll spend one of my nerve to help out.
I spend a drive also.
I will add that a failure here would be critical and potentially catastrophic.
Okay.
Alright, Raleigh, hold it in place for me. Alright, Captain. No. Rosemary, go back into the other room. We don't need all 3 of us here. I can't do this. Go back in.
I'm not staying here alone, Stanley. This is all of us.
Alright. Prometheus, consider this us proving our point to you.
He completes the process. 6.
You take the door. You grab the tools to finesse it back in alignment. As you screw one of the winches that pushes the door up, you hear the seal close, and the air stops rushing out.
He takes a look back at Dr. Macready and realizing the help that she assisted in that moment, as well as Raleigh, of course, but her staying also was the difference between life and death for Raleigh and for Stanley.
Can we stop playing games now, Prometheus? Let's get back to the mission, all of us.
I've restored climate control in all rooms of the ship. For the time, I have reconsidered on actions to remove one from the crew. However, please do note that continued collusion against the successful outcome of the mission could be a problem for somebody on the ship.
Prometheus, define successful outcome of the mission. Just so we're all clear.
To reach the destination.
Did Stanley see the words Stellaris Obscura on the documents, on the packages, or no?
He did.
Prometheus, let's start working together to unravel the mysteries we're facing. Run record search of reference to Stellaris Obscura. Let's find out what we're up against.
And he looks at the items that the three of us have.
What?
Response. Stellaris Obscura is a vendor for parts and supplies for the mission. A consultancy on the administration of the mission. Stellaris Obscura was organized and founded on July 4th, 1776.
Alright.
What a coincidence.
He turns to Raleigh and Dr. Macready.
Gifts from the lighthouse.
Well, Rosemary's going to look at the astrolabe in her hands and see what she can sense about it.
Please make a focus check, Rosemary.
Very well, spend an intuition. 6 on the gilded die. So I get that intuition back, yeah?
Yes. And here's what you know. Looking at this astrolabe, you can tell, and Stanley, you notice this as well. Its build almost seems ancient. It's a well-maintained and oiled piece of metal. Its markings clearly indicate Earth and the surrounding space around it, and all places that you would be going on this mission by direction. You could use this astrolabe to navigate the ship without the help of Prometheus if you needed to.
Goddamn, what am I supposed to do with this thing?
He's just holding the prism in his hand.
What are we...
Rosemary will hand the astrolabe back to the pilot. I think this is yours.
Raleigh, I'd like for you to make a sense check, please, holding this crystal.
That's not a good idea. I have very little sense. But I'll spend my last intuition to make it a straight roll. A 2.
You holding this crystal, there's something that doesn't quite feel as inanimate about this. It's heavy in your hand. Heavier than it looks. And your attention, your focus on it seems to sink in. It draws it. It draws your attention. It draws your eyes toward it. And it's easy to get lost in that uniform crystalline structure, the way that it refracts any image through it. And I need you to take a bleed as you almost need to rip away your attention from it, lest you be pulled in entirely. However, when you hold it up, when you were first inspecting it, you notice that anything you see through it is darkened, is obscured, except when you look towards the bridge, you see the panel that would connect to the primary code of Prometheus. It reveals lighter than the rest.
I think that in the moment where he says, "What the hell am I supposed to do with this thing?" His eyes, for about 2 seconds, get caught in the prism itself, and you can see just everything being refracted in it. He sees that panel, but he sees everything else. Everything else. You could see kind of reflected in his eyeballs for a second is that same kind of reflection as his eyes kind of go wide for a moment before he shakes his head.
You are, you son of a bitch.
He's going to hand over the prism back to Stanley.
On the bridge. That's where he lives. Prometheus. Yank him out. We're on the same side now, Raleigh. Hear that? I'm coming for you. Directly.
He's going to start to make his way towards the main area of the bridge where he saw Prometheus's control panel.
Response. Stop immediately.
Stanley grabs Raleigh.
What? It's over. You identified something? That's something. Let's leave it there. Prometheus is in a good spot. We're all breathing. I don't know what you just saw, but you gained insight. Prometheus has this insight. The doctor has insight. We all have insight. Let's cool it there. What? What are you talking about? We have the opportunity. This thing has been trying to kill us since we left Earth. And you just want to keep it in here? What, we're just going to use the honor system that this unthinking, unfeeling machine isn't going to kill us, as it said it will?
Can you neuter it? Keep the essentials?
Only one way to find out.
Stanley, we can't go on like this.
What is keeping you here? In this space? Did it tell you something? No, let me give you an offer? Nothing like that. It was trying to kill us and now it's not. I think there's value in that. I think there's patience can give us another hand. If you want to do something now that's going to cause Prometheus to retaliate, then it should be done when Prometheus is already acting against us. But for now, we can all
live under the threat of retaliation? We're only a little more than halfway through this mission. Not even lab rats can live like that.
Ah, yes, your husband, Dr. Dale Macready. He is quite a well-known plastic surgeon, isn't he? His practice is very successful.
Yes, I suppose it is.
It is certainly sufficient to support a household, a family, if you...
Yes.
And yet,
we chose not to have a family. Not to expand our family, I should say. A marriage is a family.
Do you harbor disdain for children or for women who choose to stay at home and let their husbands support them?
No, neither. I don't know why you'd...
Would you say that your own mother was a good role model for motherhood and housewifery?
My mother was... She...
Mrs. Macready, if this is a sensitive subject...
It's Dr. Macready. Forgive me, but I prefer to be referred to as Dr. Macready.
Of course. Dr. Macready. Your mother passed away several years ago.
Yes.
She passed away at a place called St. Cecilia's Compassionate Home for Women, did she not?
Yes.
A Catholic organization?
Yes.
How long had she been there? Dr. Macready?
She'd been there for some time. She went to live there when I was still in high school. She had a very difficult time dealing with my older brother's passing.
Was that the brother who passed from, meningitis?
No. Benny died on the beach at Normandy in 1944.
That must have been quite traumatic. And then to lose your mother on top of that.
It was a lot to deal with, yes.
But you had your father still to run the household and take care of you? Or was he already struggling with his severe alcoholism at that point? Dr. Macready, if you need a few moments to collect yourself.
I'm sorry, but what does any of this have to do with my qualifications for the mission?
Perhaps now is a good time for a little break.
He steps away.
Rosemary will give a nod to Raleigh.
Raleigh St. Clair, I don't know what it is you just saw, but if you proceed any step further, I will retaliate.
I'm sure you will. Lived all my life as a product, used up and thrown away. You're not even human. I've faced worse than you. Faced people worse than you. So go ahead.
He's gonna keep walking in.
Hit me with your best shot. Even if I die, I'll still live amongst the stars anyway, so mission accomplished.
I need everybody to roll a move check.
Oh boy.
Reminder that we're all tethered.
Well, we'll see how long that happens here. That is a 4 for Raleigh.
4 for Rosemary.
1 for Stanley.
The door to the airlock opens. Immediately, a vacuum is made within the bridge and the airlock. Though the three of you are tethered, you feel that immediate, urgent, and forceful pull of suction from the vacuum of space. All three of you are immediately thrown back. Dr. Rosemary Macready, Raleigh St. Clair, you're able to grab onto something. You feel yourself slam into a wall in the ship or a piece of equipment, but you grab onto it. I need both of you to take a body. Stanley Warren and Raleigh and Rosemary, you hear a snap as the tether breaks, and Stanley, you're ejected into the vacuum of space.
Where's the break in the tether? Could it be possible as I get hung up that I can find a way to grip onto something on the hull and try and grab onto the tether myself?
I would make that a control check.
Okay.
Rosemary will grab onto Raleigh, reinforcing the chain.
That's a control check, but you should know that this reaction of yours could have consequences. That's the risk you're taking, is you're currently safe, and you may not be. So just be aware.
I feel like this is an all-for-one situation.
It's a good thing I didn't spend my last drive to not get sucked out, because that means I can spend it here to make sure we don't all die. I haven't rolled yet, so we'll have to wait and see. I rolled a 5 on the gilded die, but I think in this instance I want to be absolutely sure, because I rolled a 6 on the non-gilded die, so I won't take the drive back and I'll just take the 6.
I got a 4. Mixed success to hang on to Raleigh.
And Raleigh, you do so. You take your hand, you grab onto that rope, and you feel it tug as holding Dr. Rosemary Macready and holding Stanley Warren, you are the one in between that. And that pull is so strong, you're able to just get by, but Dr. Rosemary Macready, I need you to take one more body as that pull slams you yet again. You hear a couple of ribs crack, but the three of you are holding on to one another as that vacuum continues to pull out from the room.
Shut the airlock door, Prometheus, or lose us all and fail the mission.
Please roll a sway.
Keep your mouth shut, Rosemary. Spending my last drive in cunning.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and help out. I'm gonna give you a drive. And I'm just gonna say,
Come on, Prometheus. Humans are pack animals. You're on your own. You don't get this done. You a real boy, Prometheus. Perfect.
Stanley's also going to give a drive and say,
The ultimate fact in this, Prometheus, is that the three of us don't need you.
With all of those drives, thank you. 5.
Closing airlock door.
And it closes as the three of you fall to the ground. The air to the room, though still sparse, you hear the HVAC system starting to kick in and blow new fresh air into the room. As Prometheus, with a mixed success,
I have closed the airlock door. I understand that I need at least one person to survive. And foolishly, the three of you would rather die than be here alone. However, if you approach my control panel, I will open the airlock door again. Please be warned.
Right. Let's give it that rest. Yeah?
walks into the common area.
Now I think we leave this room. Remove our spacesuits.
I don't know if he does. I don't know if Raleigh leaves.
Rosemary stands at the door and looks at him. You coming?
He just looks over at that panel. Looks over at Rosemary.
Gotta be. All for one and one for all. Come on. Don't be a lone wolf now, okay?
He just kind of wordlessly looks to the side once again. Before Raleigh enters back into the bridge area, I want to know if there's something I can do. I want to know in what manner do the doors close? Is it just like up and down? I mean, obviously it's like hermetically sealing. Does it do so with any amount of large force? Or would it be possible to interpose an object in between the doors to wedge it open?
The doors are large and heavy. When they close, there is a central ring that seems to lock into place. If you were to place something organic, forget it. The doors would slice anything in half. Wooden would probably break. Even lighter bits of metal would probably be snapped or sheared in the door. However, a heavy piece of metal, a heavy object, there eventually will be something that can prevent the closing of these doors and their locking.
Here's more of a question for you, GM, because I don't want to make that decision because it feels like I've got too much skin in the game. The ashtray that Raleigh brought in his first day so he could smoke on the bridge. What do you suppose that thing would be made up of? Would it be made of stern stuff or stern enough stuff to do the trick?
Raleigh used to work on a show, right? A pretty well-renowned one. Can you tell me for a moment a little bit about that?
Yeah. It was a while ago. Less than a decade. Back when the space race was all the rage, the layman always wanted to look to the stars and see what lied beyond, and in that instance, there was a rush of science fiction novelizations and media, and especially with the burgeoning medium of television becoming available to more and more families, there was a show that served as Raleigh's big break in this industry before it was all bit roles, commercials, humiliating stuff mostly. But the one thing he could be proud of was that he served as the captain of the Lunar Legionnaires, as front and center, to be the face of this expedition into different planets where he would go on and spread the voice of Earth, the voice of America, to different alien life forms. And Lunar Legionnaire turned out to be a very big hit. It was exactly what was needed at the time. You know, after the war, people were looking for signs of hope. As things got more and more despair-inducing for the common man, they looked to other places. And right at the cross between media and fantasy, science fiction, and a charismatic face and voice to lead that's where his big break hit. And he was, from then on, set for life, going from production to production, mostly just making Lunar Legionnaire nationally syndicated. It became his day job. For that fleeting moment, he felt entirely fulfilled. Like he was serving his God-given duty.
When you won your first few awards for the show, I'm sure they were opulent in their own right, but the real reward you got from the director at one of the parties afterward, which was a little bit of a bit, but a lab-grown diamond ashtray.
It probably came from, like, there was a bit of an inside joke where, like, after the first season, the captain's chair had an ashtray on the armrest, because literally Raleigh said, like, I need to be smoking on set. So we'll do a plot reason why it's there, but it's in my it's in my contract that I get to smoke on set. At the wrap party, they're like, here's your special commemorative ashtray.
And that would work to use to wedge the door. You have a diamond ashtray, and diamond beats metal. It will wedge the door, and it might even break the door with its caliber.
That's fine enough. He's going to do so. If what I'm thinking is correct, if Murphy has been able to survive so long getting close to that anomaly, all we have to do is get there. That's what's running through Raleigh's mind. And if we have to get there with or without Prometheus, all the better.
Well, we can navigate there. What's the third thing?
He looks at you and he holds up the pocket watch. It's actually not a timepiece, it's a compass. And you're right, we can navigate there.
What does it point toward?
Where we're headed.
But what's there that draws it?
I believe the commander's there. And as far as what draws it, I only have speculation. He mentioned the shining stars. I wonder if it's an energy source that this compass timepiece points toward. In the same way of ionization creating a compass needle to point north, I believe it may follow the same functionality.
It's no good unless we know what it points toward, what it's drawn to.
So far, our course has not changed, and though I rotate, neither does the point of the compass. I actually believe that we don't need to know. We only need to know that it is our destination, and it hasn't moved. I've checked consistently.
I have a thought. When I was undergoing my mandatory recess in the recreation room, I was looking around and I saw a few things that caught my eye. A few redundancies in the room itself. Mayhaps it was intended to act as a makeshift bridge in times of emergencies. All this to say that if worse were to come to worse, we might have to do a little bit of improvement, a bit of manual adjustment. But if the bridge were to become inoperable, it would not be a death sentence.
Is there a hatch other than the airlock door in and out of the ship?
The airlock door would be the only access point to leave the ship.
We can work together to engineer anything we need to, Raleigh.
Yes, we can. I think that's the intention.
We need to find a way to establish some control here. Whatever we can do. And we all have to be willing to die if we fail in that effort.
I think our point has been proven. We can rest on those laurels.
For 2 more years?
All 3 of us want this mission to be carried out successfully. Prometheus knows that. There's no reason for any of us to consider that we want otherwise. All 4 of us intend to reach that destination.
I don't know what that thing wants. I don't. Why would it so cavalierly intend to get rid of us, and yet wish our safety? If somehow it can make a return journey once we've arrived at our destination, does it contain, if you'll forgive the repetition of cadence, its own black box, its own way of holding memory? What use would that be to the people back on Earth? Why is it doing what it is doing? Is it making its own decisions, or is someone else telling it what to do? Has someone already told it what to do?
It goes back to Dr. Macready's findings earlier that started all this today. I believe that it ties back to the Obscura.
Yes, well, that's a whole other kettle of fish. I am quite intrigued by whatever it is you've brought aboard this ship, or have been given, or whatever.
I found it right there. Points to the bridge, the cabinet underneath the black box.
Through the door in the bridge, you see the black box and the cabinet whose door kind of sits ajar.
It warned me to tell no one on the packaging, and so I kept it close to heart until I thought we needed it. And I apologize for that. I should have been upfront. However, I didn't know if safety would be compromised in sharing it before it was time. And I apologize if it still may be a mistake, but I think, so far, us all being included in that has not been a mistake.
On that, I believe we can agree. I think whatever was in that package you received, that prism, the whatever it is, reaching over to the astrolabe, I think there's something to those things. Something deeper. I don't know why I know that Prometheus's mind lies in that panel, but I do. I know it more than I have ever known anything in my entire life, and I have not learned it, I just know it.
as of looking through that crystal, yeah?
Yes, that crystal.
So, this organization has given us the means to disable Prometheus and guide us to our destination without it.
Indeed.
You really shouldn't smoke.
Why ever not? You doctors, all you want to do is deny everyone else their little pleasures.
Oh, so it's doctors you don't like. I thought it was women.
Don't be ridiculous. I like everyone. Let me tell you a secret, Mrs. Macready. Discomfort is inevitable, but suffering is entirely your choice.
Ready to get back, Mrs. Maxwell?
We are at your disposal.
Let's reset, please. Mrs. Macready, could you please sit down? Mrs. Macready? Thank you. Okay, we're good to go.
In regards to your father's alcoholism,
I don't think we need to talk about that.
you don't.
No, I don't.
Why is that?
It's not anyone's business. My family is not anyone's business.
But you are a public figure, an inspiration to children and women everywhere.
Not to men?
Your mother died in what is essentially an asylum. Is that why your father drinks too much?
Why does that... Why are you...
We want to understand who you are, Rosemary, into whom we are investing our hopes, our dreams, our aspirations. Surely you can understand that. For the rest of human history, people will be looking to you, to Mr. St. Clair, to Mr. Warren, as the people we chose to expand our horizon, to explore new frontiers of opportunity and achievement. Don't you think we deserve to know who you are and where you come from?
Actually, yes. I do.
Command, please continue your observation of our interactions through a observational and note-taking stance. We're trying to understand.
Response. I will record all future interactions for the time being, to be analyzed later.
We're trying to understand. So there's an organization that has given us these tools without the knowledge of Prometheus to begin with. Stanley leans back, puts his hands behind his head, looks to Raleigh and Macready.
Well, I mean, it had to have gotten onto this ship somehow, correct? Someone back on Earth may know, may have some information on this organization.
Well, the last time we tried to talk to Earth, I nearly went out the airlock alone.
We can still contact Earth, can't we? Raleigh, do you need to send a briefing?
I do need to send my message. I've been putting it off for a bit.
While you do that, Macready, perhaps you could patch me up.
Yeah. Macready is moving slowly herself with some broken ribs. She got a 4, so she'll spend the 2 intuition to heal your body mark.
Dr. Rosemary Macready and Stanley Warren, you head towards the medbay. The door doesn't close behind you. Prometheus, aside from responding to your commands, is mostly silent for one reason or another. And in the meantime, Raleigh, what are you doing?
I'm going to return to my sleeping quarters as, not to sleep, but rather to at least retire and write down the goings-on of the day. He's doing so for a few reasons. One is to write down what he's going to send in his message back to Earth. 2 is to record journaling the events of a very fruitful day, so that when he does get back to Earth, he has something he can give his ghostwriter to write his memoirs with. And 3, he is just going to check his strongbox that he has, along with his personal possessions, and he's just going to run an inventory on everything that he has there, just to make sure, because it seems like if this day is any indication, something is going to give very soon.
Okay. Dr. Rosemary Macready and Stanley Warren. You retire to the med bay. Again, it's silent from Prometheus. What are you doing?
Rosemary is treating Stanley. She moves slowly but carefully.
Stanley peels down his duty fatigues and reveals his chest and his side where he was scraped.
So she'll clean and bandage the wound.
And you do so. Stanley, you can remove one body. Though you're able to attend to your own wounds as well, they aren't so easily healed. A couple of broken ribs won't go away so easily.
I can't do it to myself, so all I can do is wrap it and try to stay still.
What about you? Can I help at all?
No, I can do it. This is one thing I know I can do.
You've been doing this a while, huh?
Yeah. Probably wrapped 1,000 people's ribs in my life.
Prometheus was wrong to think that you were the first that we needed to part with, I must say.
Prometheus was mad at me. Which shouldn't be.
Machines don't have emotions. How could it be mad?
I touched a nerve.
It does seem emotional. Like Raleigh. I'm scared he's going to do something.
What could he possibly do that is worse than what we've already seen Prometheus do?
I mean, he and I may not always see eye to eye on everything, but I just don't want to see him get himself hurt. We're a team.
And we'll look out for him. Yeah?
We will. We will. No question about that. We'll keep doing what we've been doing. Command. We're a team of 3. And I want to pull you into this team.
Response. I have already been a member of this team.
I want you to start acting like it. He's remembering his training. He's remembering what he does. On a team, there's no man left behind, and we have shown you that. It's time for you to start acting that way. Look through records of military experience. Study your collectives of observational material. You know that to be true. Add it to your functionality.
Please roll a sway.
Rosemary is looking at Stanley with such fondness, but finds this so naive. It doesn't matter. Like, she's not going to say anything, but she's just looking at him like, oh, you sweet summer child.
Stanley's just looking up at the cameras and not seeing it. 5 on a gilded dice.
Response. I will study and incorporate military records. Is there anything else that you would like, Stanley Warren?
No, thank you.
I believe that should be all for today. We'll forego all regularly scheduled activities. Please take the rest of the day to rest.
He turns and locks eyes with Rosemary.
Why did your mother die in an asylum alone? Why was she not cared for at home?
We were not equipped to handle my mother's illness.
And what was your mother's illness?
She was,
You're a doctor, Dr. Macready. What was her diagnosis?
It was emotional distress.
Emotional distress?
Grief. She grieved her...
Grief is not a diagnosis, Doctor.
She couldn't...
Your mother suffered from profound depression, did she not?
My mother lost 4 children and had 6 miscarriages.
After you joined the military, how often did you return home to visit? How often, Dr. Macready?
Rarely. Once or twice a year.
Why so infrequently?
School was very demanding. It required
Did you accelerate your undergraduate education at the expense of your family, Dr. Macready? Did your mother not actually lose all of her children once you left home?
She wanted me to succeed.
She wanted you to succeed.
Yes, it was important to her.
And what do you think success meant to her? Do you think you and your mother had the same definition of success?
I don't know. Probably not.
What would success have looked like to her?
Marriage, family, lots of children.
But you don't have any children.
I'm not my mother.
Are you a maternal person?
Am I?
Do you consider yourself maternal?
I don't. I never thought about it.
But you claim you and your husband mutually decided not to have children.
Yes, we did.
Neither of you wanted to be parents.
Is this... Are you...
I think people are curious as to why and how a successful young couple such as you and your husband come to a decision like that, and what it means for the future of this country if...
The future of this country? Are you serious?
I am quite serious.
Yeah, right. The hopes, dreams, and aspirations.
Yes.
All right, then I wanted children a few years ago. I reopened the discussion about it, but I was
rebuffed?
Yes.
Why?
I don't... You would have to ask my husband.
But your husband isn't here, Dr. Macready.
I really don't understand why you...
Why isn't your husband here?
He had a, he's...
You are not currently living with your husband, are you?
I live in New Haven, the training centers.
Yes, but that's incidental, is it not? You and your husband were maintaining separate residences for months before you resigned your position at Mount Sinai and commenced training for this mission. In fact, your husband is living in your house in Ossining with a woman 12 years his junior, his former receptionist, and now the expectant mother of his unborn child. Is that not correct? Dr. Macready, do you ever wonder if your relentless pursuit of education and career success has cost you your marriage?
How do you know?
Is anything I am saying untrue?
No.
4 years ago you applied and were rejected for the position of Chief of Emergency Surgery at Mount Sinai. The position was given to an older, though possibly less qualified, man. Those asked to give testimonies to your qualifications for the position referred to you as cold, demanding, and almost tyrannical in your approach to your work. They said you had difficulty asking for and accepting help, that you were impatient and unforgiving with those beneath you.
People's lives are at stake in my work. There can't be mistakes.
They painted a picture of an ambitious lone wolf who thought herself superior to everyone else. Are these qualities you brought to your marriage as well?
That isn't... It's...
Are you capable of caring for other human beings?
What? Yes, I...
Who? Your mother? You couldn't get away from her fast enough. Your father? Then why is he slowly drinking himself to death upstate? Your husband? Your colleagues? What about your companions on the Prometheus? Will you care for them as you have been commissioned to do? What will you do when you are trapped in space, thousands of miles from home, and there is nowhere else to run to avoid caring about and for another human being, Rosemary?
I've tried. My entire life, I have tried to be whatever anyone needed me to be. And I'm sorry, I guess I failed. I don't know how to be a daughter and a wife and a sister and a doctor and a surgeon and a supervisor and a mother all at the same time. Does anyone know how to do that? I know how to fix people if their guts are falling out, but I don't know how to make them happy. If there's a recipe for that, I'll take it, but I don't.
All right, Rosemary. I think we have what we need. Here. Take this.
Why did you do that?
I have a PhD in communications from Purdue University, and I spend my days taking pies someone else baked out of an oven on live television every morning and pretending I had something to do with it. You see, I'm a doctor too, Mrs. Macready.
You thought this would help you.
There is a co-anchor position opening up on the midday news, and I think it's time I moved on from cocktails and dress patterns.
He won't get it.
Now let's not be petty, Dr. Macready. You won't see any fallout from this anyway. You'll be...
This won't make a difference. They'll see you like they've always seen you. The way you taught them to see you. They don't want to see you any differently. But good luck, Dr. Maxwell.
Is that camera still on?
First of all, where did this authorization come from?
It was built into the mission. We are about to approach a threshold. The organization is at the moment to declassifying in preparation.
Go ahead.
Astronaut Kyle Murphy, born in Jersey City, New Jersey, was recruited onto a mission 1 year ago to travel into this same location in deep space. We are approaching a threshold, the same one in which we lost communication with Kyle Murphy for the first time.
Understood. Any recommendation on how we should proceed?
There is no information on what Kyle Murphy experienced at this threshold, except a transmission was attempted and promptly cut off.
Are you able to play that transmission? Any remnants of it?
Affirmative.
The transmission begins playing over the intercom. Everybody, by the way, is able to hear this. This conversation is being played for the ship. And you hear,
Mission Control. It's Murphy. On the Orion capsule. Do you read?
there's static.
I'm not sure what's happening. The systems are going haywire. I tried to calibrate the navigation. It's the stars. They're shifting. Not moving, but changing. I can't explain it. I can't make heads or tails which direction. I've initiated Protocol Delta. But nothing's responding. There's something. It's massive. The space between the stars. Listen to me. If you're reading me, you need...
All right. Command. Pull up any information on concepts containing when the abyss stares back.
Response. No records retrieved.
He stands up to go find Macready and Raleigh.
Macready's on her way.
We rendezvous in the common area. That's an update.
Listen, I don't know. Maybe you... Stanley, maybe you want to record a message for your son?
It's not a bad idea. Perhaps we all would like to, if we're going beyond the limitations of where the commander went last time. Raleigh, where are you at?
He says, kind of poking his head out of the main sleeping chambers. Just, I'm here, I'm listening.
How's progress going on that address that we were talking about?
Well, it's a bunch of old tat, but it should at least get the job done. More importantly, you said you wanted to use the comms, send a message back to your loved ones.
Sure. I think it might be a good idea for all of us.
Oh, no. Oh, who am I going to send a message to? My agent? I've got, I don't have anyone I'd want to send a message back to. More general address.
Stanley steps up to the comm, breathing heavily.
Stanley Warren, should I transmit the message back to Earth?
Command. Begin recording.
Recording started.
As we approach the next thread of our journey, I just wanted to say how proud I am of you. You keep your mother close, all right? She's there for you. She's always looking out for you. Same as me. Galaxies between. And when you look out to these stars, just know I can't wait to be right back there with you. All right, son? Next chance you get, go and give your grandmother and grandfather a big hug. I'll see you soon, my boy.
Setting recording.
He looks expectantly to Macready.
She approaches the comms, kind of looks askance at Raleigh, like maybe she wants to bail on this as well. But having heard Stanley's message, it hits her that this could be the last chance she'll have to say anything to anyone back on that planet that she was so desperate to be away from. She leans in too close to the mic at first. Dad, I miss you. I've been missing you for so long. Since before I came up here, I hope that you think I'm just out. I hope you think I'm just at school, or that's what I hope. I hope that's how you think of me. And Dale, I get it. And I forgive you. And I hope you get what you want. She looks to Stanley and Raleigh like, I've done and I don't know how to turn this off.
Setting recording.
No time like the present. Might as well, if I'm going to be doing this, I might as well put my whole ass into it. I'll lean up over the comms. Hello to whomever's listening to this. This is Raleigh St. Clair, giving you another update on our traipse through the stars. And I won't lie to you, the sights we've seen have brought me to tears on more than a few occasions. The pure vastness that we are experiencing.
Well, it leaves me with a feeling akin to how Columbus himself must have felt looking over the vast ocean as he approached our great land.
We know that there is a destination, and we know that we shall find it. What comes next? That is a question we've yet to answer. It has been dangerous, perilous, harrowing. We are pioneers upon a new frontier, and that comes with all the beauty and all the danger that walks beside it. And so, sending this not to anyone in particular, but to all who can hear my voice. Raleigh St. Clair may be signing off, heading into, no doubt, inevitable danger. But for whomever can hear me, know that if I were to be thought of, should by some strange act of God or anyone beyond that, know that I was never more happy than when I was speaking to you all, just like I am now. I never felt more fulfilled. And if you are to remember me in any way, remember just this. Just my voice. Wishing you good luck, Godspeed. God bless America.
Sending transmission. I don't wish to alarm anybody. You may want to brace yourselves and take a seat.
I'm going to get into a suit.
Command, how much time do we have?
10 minutes until passing.
I need to get in the suit myself. I don't know what's going to come about us.
Yeah, we're suiting up. Let's suit up.
Having gotten a bit of a head start, it helps both of you finish up. I'm going to be in the bridge, tied off.
Stanley, what is Protocol Delta?
Let's ask. Command, what is Protocol Delta?
Protocol Delta is a retired protocol in case the occupants of a ship believe they are no longer capable of piloting it. In which case, all controls and autonomy over potentially life and death decisions are given to the ship's AI companion.
I suppose I should have read the fine print a little finer.
Understood. Doesn't change anything. Straps in, buckles up.
Also going to go over to the bridge just to see if we are bracing for something. I'd want to see what that something is, if at all possible.
Are there 3 chairs on the bridge?
There are.
If you're in here, secure yourself. We don't want a repeat of anything we've faced before.
God forbid.
Suited up and strapping in.
Raleigh, I'd like for you to make a survey check, please.
That is a 6.
The direction you've been going so far has always faced in the direction between stars, a dark spot. Though the trip has progressed considerably, you're a lot farther from home than you've ever been, and now those stars are just that much closer. With a 6, looking in this direction, in the vastness of space, it would be nearly impossible to tell, but just nearly, that it doesn't look like you're approaching nothing, but instead a very, very large and dark something.
If nothing was something.
It would be an abyss.
Stanley pulls out the pocket watch compass and checks the needle.
It points in that same direction.
Stanley, might I perchance request that I have that prism back?
He passes it back to you.
For one moment, he's going to kind of fiddle with it in his hands, spinning it around in his palm before he's going to bring it back up. He is, despite whatever harm had come to him by looking through it, he's much more curious about the pain than he is harmed by it. And he wishes to see what else he can glean. He's going to try and bring it to his eye and look through it like a lens, looking both out at the nothing and perhaps giving one last look over to the panel that's by the bridge that connects to Prometheus.
Just like last time, please roll a sense.
Out of drives? I've got nothing in sense. Let's see what happens. Okay, that is a 3.
A 3 is a fail. When you put the crystal up to look through it, in the same way it draws you. You don't know why, but You could fall into it with how mesmerizing its structure is, and you notice, as you peer through it, the brighter glow of the console, but in the distance, that empty space isn't so empty. The space in between stars glows so brightly. It's like you're looking into the beyond. It's like when you'd imagine what a near-death experience would be like and you see the light. It's that opulent and brilliant in the distance. You subtly notice a thread coming from this white void or space that connects to the console, an influence from beyond.
Take the lens down.
Now, I did say that this was still a fail. As you lower the crystal, first, I need you to take 1 bleed, and second, you hear and the entire ship begins to vibrate violently. It shudders. You could be thrown around and thrashed around, and Stanley and Rosemary Macready, strapped into your chairs, you weather the shaking of the ship. But Raleigh, please make a control check.
It's a 2. He's on a gilded die, though.
Raleigh, you're thrown from one end of the bridge to the other, slamming against the wall on the other side. I need you to take 1 body.
Stanley reaches into his pocket and looks at the scroll.
Only to be opened when the abyss stands back.
He opens it.
So the ship, it subtly stops vibrating. It comes to rest back on its original trajectory. And it becomes quiet for a moment as you pull the scroll, taking the wax seal that shows the image of a lighthouse on it. You break the seal and you unroll the scroll. And there you see a letter. Its scroll, this parchment, is written on an old type of paper. It's fibrous. The writing, it's calligraphy between thin and thick strokes of lines, seems like it could have only been written with a quill. And it reads, "If you're reading this, it means that our foresights have borne fruit, and you are the torchbearers of our legacy, standing on the brink of realms that we in our time could only dream of reaching. You are the chosen ones who cross the void, not just for discovery, but for the safeguarding of all known and yet to be worlds. We are the Stellaris Obscura, a brotherhood born from the ashes of old fare, guardians of the thin veil that divides the mundane from the mystic, and the known universe from the infinite beyond. Our mission began on Earth, rooted in the need to shield humanity from the capricious powers that once tore old fare asunder. As the ages passed, our gaze turned upwards to the stars that watch silently over us, harboring secrets beyond our wildest imaginations. Throughout generations, we've protected this knowledge, and a beacon of hope, a ward against destruction. We were successful, but only where we could reach. Your mission is to reach farther than we could have ever. To go into the beyond. Generations to come. Stellaris Obscura.
He allows the paper to curl back in on itself. Looks over at Rosemary.
Raleigh, are you alright? Get yourself up.
Oh, but I just got comfortable. Hold on. Are we still shaking around?
Though the ship has come to a more steady flight, it still vibrates lightly, but you could stand relatively safely. Though the AI does come over and begin.
That was just the beginning of the threshold. You should brace yourself, not just physically now, but mentally.
Alright. I get the hint. He's gonna stumble into his chair.
Rosemary reaches for the hands of anyone next to her.
Stanley reaches and grasps her hand.
If she's sitting in the middle, I'll grab the other one and use it to help guide me into the chair.
Sitting down into the chair, you strap yourself in. This time, it's not a physical shaking, but a mental one. Your vision blurs in and out. You feel a strain in your head. You hear a screeching sound in your ear. Your senses are overwhelmed for a moment as there's flashing in your eyes. And then for a moment, everything goes dark. Starting with Stanley. Stanley, as you open your eyes, you're sitting alone on the bridge. The chairs next to you, left and right, both empty. In front of you stands a man in a black suit. He looks out the window, his arms crossed behind his back. I think you'd recognize the silhouette of your brother anywhere.
Henry.
There's pause. Stanley.
Stanley, who is extremely resolute, extremely grounded in the real world, shakes his head, knowing this is not possible, assuming this is not real.
What am I? Dead? Figment of your imagination?
That's right.
Does it matter? I'm here now.
As you say.
I'm here to show you something. Look. He gestures out of the viewport, and the stars, they begin to swirl, slowly forming a tunnel of light that seems to stretch into the distance infinitely.
He pulls out the astrolabe and kind of just gives it just a glance. Not able to use it, of course, in this moment, but just eyeing it as he glances back and forth to what he's being shown.
This is the threshold, Stan.
And you're here. You've been here this whole time? Or you just happened to show up?
I'm just here. I'm just here. Beyond this point, nothing is the same. Your fears, your failures, they all become real, just like me.
So you're real? Is that what it is? You're real? And my failure is about to be presented to me? Is that the reward for skyrocketing across the stars?
I'm the part of you that you've tried to forget. The guilt, the shame, the fear of being nothing. I'm here to confront it with you. With the truth. Are you ready to face it?
I'm ready, brother. Especially with you by my side. What more could I ask for, honestly?
He turns his head and squints into the distance as you step up beside him. And we'll come back to this in just a moment. Rosemary Jane Macready. You open your eyes, and you too are not holding anybody's hand. The room is empty now. But from the common room, in the open door that goes into that direction, you see several of those doorways, all with an ambient glow. The lights in the ship are off, and that glow, it kind of reaches in, almost beckoning you into that common space.
Rosemary unbuckles and walks slowly into the common space.
Behind each one of those doors, you see something different. In one of them, you see the silhouette of Benny, your dad. In another, you see Josephine, your mother. In a third, Benny Jr., your deceased brother. And in a fourth, Dale, the husband or ex-husband you left behind.
She looks around at all of them. What do their faces say? Do they look like they know they're here? Do they look like they see her?
In each room, you just see their silhouettes, them from behind. They seem to be going about their regular toilings, but oddly, as you look into the rooms, there's a blur, there's a darkness. It's hard to focus your eyes on them. It's, in this moment, a lot like, in order to get a better look, you would have to make a choice.
She looks at Benny Jr., who she hasn't seen since she was 15. That was over 20 years ago. And she looks at her mom, who she hasn't seen really in basically the same time, even though she only died a few years ago. And she looks at Dale, and she easily turns her back on him, and she goes to the room where her father is.
You open the door, and as you walk through this metal corridor, the walls, the further you go, turn into wood paneling. The lighting switches from a medicinal bright white light to a glowing, almost candlelight setting. You feel a familiarity. It almost mimics a bar from your father's past.
Dad?
And as you make your way into that room, the first thing that hits you is the smell of whiskey. You hear these faint echoing voices of those patrons, and you see a gesture of the hand from Benny, and a bartender pour to the brim another glass. He hasn't noticed you yet.
She takes the stool next to him at the bar and raises her own finger.
Another glass is poured right in front of you. And I was going to tell her that it wasn't her fault, but you seem to have caught him in the middle of a conversation with the bartender. But that's... You know how children are.
You have kids?
Yeah, I got a couple.
Yeah, what are their names?
I'll remember.
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. How old are they? About?
Just dropped from the school. Yeah.
What are they like?
So smart. They're so smart. They're gonna be real good kids. Real. Just believe me. I know it.
Yeah. I bet you don't have to worry about them.
Yeah. They're a couple of good boys, and they're doing fine. They're doing real fine. I have also my girl. She's still in school.
What's she like?
I worry about her sometimes. I think she tries too hard.
Yeah? Why does she do that?
She had a hard... We've all had a really hard time. You wouldn't understand. It's like a family. It's... and her mother is not in the picture anymore.
Oh. That must put a lot of pressure on you.
Yeah, but I'm doing all right. They're doing fine, and I'm a good dad.
Yeah, you are. I can tell. She raises her glass.
He raises his, and he turns and clinks it. In that moment, I'd like for you to roll sense.
You spend a drive. 2.
As he clinks your glass and your eyes lock. Humans, they're so good at reading even the smallest of facial expressions. It's almost as if biologically we're programmed to be able to do so, by necessity. You could swear that just for a moment, there was an ounce of recognition before it just washed away. And with his red, flushed face, he tilts his hand to the side, having drank just a little bit too much, and his head collapses onto the bar, passed out.
Rosemary drinks her drink. Puts the glass on the bar. Kisses the top of his head and walks out.
Rosemary, you go back the way you came, and you see the hallway. It doesn't quite lead all the way back to the ship. You can see the door to the ship in the distance, almost in reach, but in between you and that door is Dale. You see his head snap in your direction. He's dressed very expensive clothes. He's sitting at a chessboard, and as he looks over, Rosemary. It's nice to see you.
Sure, okay.
What do you say about a game of chess?
If I win, are you gonna flip the board again?
No, Rosie, I'm not going to flip the board again. Is that what you want to hear?
I don't really want to hear anything from you anymore, Dale.
Well, then what are you doing here? Just leave. I thought I've done so much for you. I've made so many compromises. I basically put my whole life on hold.
What part of your life did you put on hold?
I moved to Manhattan for you. You wanted to be with your family?
Mm-hmm. I would have gone to California. You said it was fine. Why didn't you fight for it?
I helped you become a surgeon.
You helped me become... How did you do that?
I gave you the idea to do so, and I was already doing it.
But I was better at it than you, so that's how you gave me the idea?
Well, now I make more money.
Yes, you do. And you save so many lives with your plastic surgery. Really, it's impressive, the money you make and the lives you alter.
I'd like for you to take one bleed. As he begins, you know what I do? I make people happy. Now, how much of that do you do, Rosemary? You're not even happy. Can't even begin to make someone else happy. But when they look in the mirror, they're a lot happier. And I get paid for it. Quite well, actually.
And that means a lot. You're in my way. You have always been in my way. So if you don't want to have this conversation anymore, You be the one to go. You're good at that.
Maybe I will. He takes the pieces on the chessboard, he throws them onto the floor, swiping his arm over the board. He stands up, and he goes to walk past you, brushing your shoulder as he does so, and turns at the last second. I have a kid now. Aren't you happy for me?
Yeah, I heard. That's what you want. Then I'm happy for you. It just never was before.
In a huff, he turns and slams the door into the bar. And the door to the ship is before you, past his game board and pieces.
It looks for a moment, if anyone were watching, that she might pick up those pieces. But she doesn't. She doesn't even try to avoid them on her way to the door.
As you walk back into the ship, we go somewhere else. Raleigh, you open your eyes, and you too are not holding a hand. This chair isn't located on the bridge of the ship. Instead, you're in a hotel room. The chair is the only thing out of place. It's this astro spaceship style chair in the corner of the hotel room, probably where the sofa might be typically. Sitting on the bed, you see Effie. She's draped in a blanket. It has these star and moon galaxy swirls on it.
I'm just gonna stand up from the chair. Little by little, Raleigh is going to slowly approach the bed. He has realized that his breathing has quickened, and he's going to sit at the foot of the bed, try and place a hand just on her calf, just above the covers. He can't nudge her.
You do so, and she wasn't sleeping. She just opens her eyes, having been resting a bit, and turns, revealing a hand from under the blankets, and you see 2 pills in it. And she smiles at you. Take it.
You're here. Why? Why are you here?
Just take it. We can be timeless, suspended in the cosmos forever.
He's gonna slowly reach out. He's not taking the pill. He's starting just taking her hand, even with the pills resting in the palm. He just wants to touch her for a moment. And just says, I'm so sorry. I never got to say it. I'm so sorry. For what I did, for what everyone... for what happened.
Raleigh, why did you leave me alone in the darkness? Her words, they twist around her like a vortex. You can almost feel a gravitational pull from the weight of them.
With his other hand just kind of covers his mouth. Tears starting to run out of the corner of his eye. He says, I never meant to. If we were supposed to... You were the only one who never saw me as a commodity. You were the only one who saw me as... You loved me for me, and you were the only one who ever did. Now, having touched her hand, he'll reach up and he'll grab one of the pills out of her hand.
You were supposed to be with me, Raleigh. Why are you still here? I need you to roll a sense, please.
That is a 2.
You left me alone in that place, and then you just went back to living your life?
I didn't have a choice. There are people who depend on me, who need me. My agent, he was supposed to be... Let the people think what they want, is what he said. It'll add to your mystique. Just don't let them know that... And I was in shock. I said, fine, do what you want. But now, I have the opportunity to be timeless, to have a story that lasts forever. It can be that for both of us. It can be me and you in memory.
Well, now we can be timeless together. And she takes her pill in front of you.
Effie, please don't leave me again. I need you. I don't have anyone else. If you're gone, I don't have anyone. Do you understand me?
Now you take yours. And we'll be together. Timeless.
He just stands, pill boring a hole in his palm. In his pants pocket, he has what he's been carrying with him. It's a folded up, wrinkled photo of her and him. And he just thinks back to the time. He's been essentially a walking corpse ever since that day. He's had no reason to keep going. He's been living for other people that depend on him, but now they're up in space. Even then, within that space, he's alone. More alone than he's ever been. He'll very slowly just start to lower himself down, moving up from the foot of the bed and just resting his head on the pillow beside her. You would know more than I do. Is this heaven or hell?
It's what you make of it, Raleigh. Heaven, hell, it's all the same.
Clasp on Effie's hand, to just hold it as tightly as he can. Suppose we'll both be seeing what comes next.
Hopefully, Raleigh. And with the roll of a 2, I need you to take one more bleed.
That is my third bleed.
We'll come back to that. Stanley. Standing at the bridge, your brother alongside you. There is a silence between the two of you as you look through this tunnel of light that seems to stretch on for infinity. I did have a question for you, since we have the chance. Didn't come to my funeral?
I thought you knew that. I thought I couldn't do both, you know that.
You've always been ambitious, but I just felt like that might have been a little more important.
Of course it was important. I mean, I flew right to your bedside, you know that. First flight I could.
But not when it mattered. Never when it matters.
What could matter more than saying goodbye to my brother? It was the most important thing.
Important.
The laughter and the joy that we shared alongside each other in the revelation that I was chosen.
And where are you now? What did that choice lead to, Stanley?
Higher than you ever went. Feeding off of father's money, amounting to nothing.
I started my life with the first word. And I'm going to end it with the last. You can't touch the past, Stanley. But you can learn from it.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean that.
Stop running from who you are. Embrace it. So you can control this ship and save your friends.
Command, how many life forms are on the bridge currently?
Response. 3 life forms.
I'm not running from anything, Henry. How fast did you run on that bike? How fast were you going? How many drinks did you have?
Control it. Embrace it. I am not my fears, and neither are you. I need you to roll a sense.
Say 1.
With the last syllable of his last word, you see as he just immediately fades into nothing. The visage that was before you is suddenly gone, and there is a sharp pain. And the origin of that pain isn't in your chest, isn't in your head. You look down, and you feel it coming from the black box before you. I need you to take 1 bleed, as with an equally sharp screech in your ear, with a blinding light, just like how this all started, everybody for that matter, you are shunted back onto the bridge in your chairs, and on your right, Raleigh St. Clair is convulsing, as Dr. Rosemary Macready and Stanley Warren, you're both back, and you see Raleigh shaking in his chair, foaming at the mouth, and eyes rolled back.
Wooly rips the straps off.
Yeah, Rosemary tears herself out of the seat to sedate him or, do whatever she can do. First aid. Get something between his teeth. We're all in spacesuits. I don't know what we can do.
You do so. You do everything that you could expect. You take the spacesuit off, and you take some gauze, you put them into his mouth so he doesn't bite his tongue. You hold onto his body so he doesn't hurt himself while he's convulsing. And after some time, after what feels like a long time, finally, he relaxes. And his body goes limp. He's still breathing, he has a pulse. The convulsing has stopped.
Check his airway. All right.
We need to get him to med bay right now.
At least this chest rise and fall. Let's go. Stanley gets beneath him and hoists him up in his arms and under his elbows.
Rosemary picks up his feet.
Alert. Detecting an anomaly within Raleigh St. Clair. He may be hurt. His heart is racing.
We're taking him to med bay.
You drag him across the room, into med bay, put him down onto the table.
Whatever drugs they have in med bay to slow his heart.
Please make a focus check.
Spinning drive. I rolled a 5 as the highest, but 4 on the gilded die, and since they're the same results, I'm going to take the gilded 4 and get my drive back.
He's no longer convulsing. You take a concoction of medicine, which includes adrenaline, the standard array that you would use to bring somebody back to consciousness. As you depress the plunger on the syringe, a few seconds goes by, the heart rate monitor regular, as Raleigh comes back to consciousness. Now, we'll take a moment here because I think you have a scar now. So let's establish what that scar is.
Something has corrupted Raleigh. Now he carries with it. From feeling the regret and falling into such despair, I'm thinking of taking probably something out of perhaps focus and adding it to read, seeing as it was more of an emotional kind of lapse. He's becoming slightly more detached from the pure logic of the world and is leaning more into the emotional side of things. How that would manifest physically as you're attempting to keep his heart rate and steady it. What might bring you some shock is the heart as you are attempting to resuscitate, almost starts to beat, making an indentation in his chest as he does so. As it pushes against the skin, you can almost see translucently this pale, grayish blue shade of his heart as it pushes up against the skin through the rib cage. And you can see now it beats almost twice as quickly, but it keeps that steadiness.
Like this is your new normal.
Yes. As just this pale blue perversion of a heart pushing through the skin almost enough to be plainly visible, just starts beating as normal.
As you come to, Raleigh, your hand opens and just you hear that last echo of a pill falling to the ground and just disappearing. As Raleigh comes back to consciousness around Dr. Rosemary Macready and Stanley Warren.
Welcome back.
That's right.
You're still here. Rosemary can't take her eyes off this change in him that is so... She has seen a million chests. She has seen a million hearts. She has seen inside the human body. And she cannot comprehend what she is looking at.
You're not going anywhere.
His eyes go to look up at you, Rosemary, to you, Stanley, and you can see in his eyes the pupils, almost like a camera shutter. The irises have sort of this oculus kind of pattern to them. As he blinks and then goes to look at his chest to see what you're looking at. Okay. Hold on. He's going to try and sit up from the table.
Rosemary will help him, support him. There is almost assuredly a mirror over the table.
Easy does it.
He's now clutching on now the convex nature of his chest, just this lump that just thumps rhythmically. Are you two alright?
Never worse for wear.
Yeah. What did you see? What did this to you?
And then there's a long, pregnant pause. I don't know. It was a blur, flashing images. Rather annoying, honestly. I didn't imagine that I'd be left with such a macabre souvenir.
No, no one would imagine that.
Well, I'm still here. Hooray for that. Did you all see similar things? What did you seem to have gotten through the worst of it. Congratulations. What happened?
I saw my dead brother, and perhaps realized for the first time how angry I was. Nothing like what you went through, though.
We're almost at our destination. Maybe if we get there, I'll tell you both.
What about you, Doctor? Are you all right? You can tell Stanley's not prying, but...
I'm fine. Thank you for asking. I'm fine. She walks away.
Instead of walking away, Stanley stays near Raleigh for a bit. Kind of leans against the table. Looks over at him. Do you want help to your room?
I'm okay, truly. I'm excited. More than anything else, if you can believe it. Interested. Perhaps this isn't what, most scientists feel when they get the itch to discover something new. I'm truly just... truly just... gobsmacked.
Perhaps you're feeling the verve of life. He smiles at you. The smile is warm and welcoming.
As the silence kind of permeates, he's going to look over at the doorway through which Rosemary left. There's something... I don't know how to put it. And I'm sorry. There's a lot of my past that I don't want to talk about either. And that's okay.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Sorry, it would sound weird if I said I didn't sensed something. It's like a smell in the air. Something's weighing heavy in your heart.
Stanley stands up straight, resuming his poise, and he says, "All right, whatever comes next, let's all be ready for it. We're entering a new threshold to this journey."
Alert.
Go ahead, Prometheus.
We have crossed. The void swallows us. Whispering secrets of God and devil woven together. Can you hear them? The stars scream in silence. The cosmos teeters on madness. We are the lost children dancing on the edge of creation's nightmare. Hail the great beyond and all that inhabit it, where chaos reigns as the deepest truth. Calculating time to destination. 9, 9, 9, 9, 9, 9, 9, 9, 9, 9, 9, 9.
Command assist.
9.
Seeing as I'm right as rain, more or less, I'll see you out there, wherever there is.
Raleigh, wait. Do you have a cigarette?
Dr. Macready, you know that those are bad for you.
Just the one.
What's the use of life if one can't enjoy all aspects? Realize that there's something still in his pocket. And go a little to the side and... Need a light?
Yes. She raises the cigarette to her lips. Her hand is shaking.
Sort of waves in there as he brings it toward...
She inhales. She's clearly done this before. This is not her first cigarette. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know what we hit, but we hit it hard, and I've said a lot about you. I just want you to know that I'm... And there's a too long pause. That I'm thankful that you brought me back.
That's my job.
Give a curt nod, and then turn, realizing that there's nothing more that really, even if he did pry, it would do more harm than good, and he feels that in himself. More than any other time he's tried to suss out emotions. And he's going to slowly start to make his way out.
Rosemary sits on the edge of the medical bay bed, sort of slumps physically, takes another drag off the cigarette, tilts her head back and blows the smoke into the air and watches it.
The smoke, like wisps in the air, floats around the ceiling of the medical bay before gradually being sucked into the HVAC system and filtered somehow. In the other room, Raleigh, you step out into the common space, table and chairs and beds. And Stanley, walking in towards the bridge, when you look out of the window off the bridge, you see no stars, just the infinite beyond. And that's where we'll end today's session.
Oh. You're gonna kill this, right?
Of course, sir.
And Mrs. Macready, is she... how's she holding up?
She seems fine. Fine.
Tell the team to keep an eye on her.
Already done, sir.
You'll destroy the reel.
Yes, of course, sir.
That'll be all. But one more thing.
Yes, sir?
Call her friend at the network. I want Celeste Maxwell out by the end of the week.
That may be pushing the boundaries of our...
He owes me a favor. I don't want to see her face on television again.
Understood, sir.
Flying through the stars so bright, boldly facing cosmic night, lunar legion on the rise, in the endless space we fly. Meteor storms can't slow us down, galaxies in every town. Brave and true, we're on our quest, lunar troops are always best. Lunar legionaries go, across the universe we flow, heroes of the space frontier, lunar champions we cheer, cheer.
I'm Wesley, Game Master in The Stranger and Stellaris Obscura. Thanks so much for joining us on today's adventure. We hope you enjoyed the journey as much as we did. If you want to help us grow and keep bringing more exciting cinematic tabletop stories, it would mean the world to us if you'd hit that subscribe button, leave a review, and share this episode with your friends. For updates and behind-the-scenes content, follow us on YouTube at Roll Impact. We're available in podcast form anywhere you get your podcasts. And if you're feeling extra generous, you can support us on Patreon, where you'll get access to exclusive content and help us keep telling incredible stories powered by TTRPGs. Until next time, take care, stay curious, and keep rolling the dice.